Good. Now that we have selected who the actual target is for our communication campaign, let's make sure that we map what the decision-making process or the customer journey is. This is what a typical customer journey looks like. As you can imagine, it first begins with the customer recognizing the problem. Typically, at this point, you may have already a set of preconceived alternatives. Next, you might conduct some information search, subsequent to which you will go on to the stage of evaluating alternatives and deciding and making a purchase decision. If the product has been successful, then you will go to repurchase, and in which case you will develop a loyalty loop. If you're not happy with the experience, you're going to go back typically to the information search stage or to evaluate alternatives once again. So the first thing I have identified the target is to be able to draw the consumer journey for the particular product or service that I'm about to launch. But in addition to mapping the customer decision journey, you also want to identify all the customer's touch points and the different experiences that you might go through, positives or negatives, at those different encounters to make sure that I design the proper content and communication strategy to try to improve upon those experiences. Let's assume that you found out that you're about to have the third kid. Most couples that have the third kid need to upgrade cars, as typically 3 car seats do not fit properly in a standard sedan car, so you might go into a bigger car. What are the different ups and downs that a customer through that decision journey might actually encounter? First, for example, you receive the news that you're expecting a third baby, right? This will certainly qualify as a very enjoyable piece of news, right? That will be positive. Immediately, you think about, oh, shoot, we will need a new car. You realize you need a bigger car. That will probably count as a negative experience. After which, you will get into the fun process of trying to researching cars. For most people, that might actually be quite an enjoyable experience. But then, you need to also research financial alternatives if you're going to get financing for the car. Certainly not a very fun process, especially if you have to read the small print. Then you have to sign the contract. Let's say this part is neutral. And finally, you get the keys to your new car. This will be probably the most enjoyable part of the later stage of this process. So as you can see, realizing all these different touch points and the emotional roller coaster that somebody will go through will give you plenty of opportunities to target the right communication messages at the different stages. Next, we'll move on to our last example. Let's assume that you're in the market for a new home, a customizable home in Mexico. What do you think if you are a first-time buyer of a new home, perhaps because you're expecting family for the first time? What are the different concerns that might actually be hitting you at this particular point once you enter the daunting process of having to go and look for a new home, perhaps designing elements of it yourself? You can imagine everything that is going on in a person's mind when trying to go through this process for the first time, and most likely the only time in your life. It's a very high involvement decision. It is very complex, right? You need to decide on styles, floor plans, construction materials, finishings, a whole and big and thick catalogs of different materials and finishings and particular elements that you might want to have inside the house. It's a very complex decision, and as you can imagine, there is plenty of confusion, inexperience, and even maybe fear. So take the company side, for example. What should be the objective of the communication campaign with all this that is going on inside a customer's head, right? If you're in the business of building customizable homes and promoting them, perhaps the objective of your communication program should stress a couple of these points. First of all, you might want to become a one-stop shop. You might want to try both finding the land, the construction, the design, and if you possibly can, solving the financing problem for this particular customer to make sure that he doesn't find more roadblocks in the purchase process. In addition, you may want to stress out that you're a national brand present all over the country and that you have been around for a long time through the ups and downs of the economic cycles, as a lot of small builders will typically go out of business during a crisis, in which case the customer may have concerns about the warranties on construction. Finally, you may offer a full catalog with set models of home to help or speed up the decision-making process, or you may want to stress out that your price is non-negotiable, in a sense that once you choose the floor plan, the model, and the finishing, the price is set. A lot of people already seems this process complex enough, and they are inexperienced, and it's really very daunting, the possibility of cost running more than they had anticipated, and then the house not being delivered on time. So actually competing by having fixed prices once the model, size, and finishing are set might actually be a very good idea, and one that you might really want to communicate. And the objective of it is to ease the pain that a new customer into the home market might be facing once having to face perhaps one of the most important decisions in their life.